you abolished the diaper tax.
The thing is, if you've met one person with dementia, you've met one person with dementia. Every single one is different.
And you're the dean of the School of Communications at Quinnipiac University for
because it's allowed me to understand education.
I started traveling the country, just training people to understand these disabilities.
That was one of the reasons why I brought you on to discuss that.
Monday night, 8 p.m. EST.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. It is Monday night, October 10th. Happy Columbus Day for everybody who's celebrating today with the parades and all the festivities. So tonight's guest is Chris Rausch, Dean of the School of Communications at Quinnipiac University in Connecticut. And we're going to be speaking with Dean Rausch about Ability Media, which is a project at the school. So please let's welcome Dean Chris Rausch.
Thank you, Pam. Great to be here.
Thank you so much. It's lovely having you. So how was your day today?
It's been great. It's a beautiful Monday in Connecticut.
So, I've actually seen pictures of the school, and our producer, who, as you know, Anthony Griffo, gave me a virtual tour of the school, and it's absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, we have a very lovely setting here.
So tell me all about yourself. I was reading your bio, and it's very impressive. And you're the dean of the School of Communications at Quinnipiac University for about 17 years, or?
No, I've been at Quinnipiac for a little bit more than 3 years. I'm in my fourth year at Quinnipiac as the dean. Before that, I spent 17 years at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill in a variety of roles: senior associate dean, director of the master's program, obviously a professor. I started the business journalism program there. So that's where I spent the bulk of my academic career.
And I saw that you've been an author of 10 books. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. 5 of them are about business journalism, which is my kind of area of specialty. And then another 5 have been in what I would call kind of corporate histories. So I write history books about companies and how, why they're successful, what hurdles they faced, what problems they face, things like that.
Is there a certain formula that works for every successful corporation, or is it just hit or miss?
I think it's hit or miss. I think it depends on the business. I mean, there are some businesses that are very service oriented and very service focused, and that's why they're successful. But I also think a lot of it has to do with the product that you're selling. I think the product that a company is selling also has a lot to do with their success.
Well, that does make a lot of sense. I know from reading about you and what you do over at Quinnipiac University, you're involved with the School of Communications. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Sure.
And I see Ability Media.
Yeah. So Ability Media is something that we started shortly after I got here. We were looking for something that would set the school apart, that no other School of Communications was doing in the United States. And what we quickly discovered was that there was a real pressing need in communications for content around the disability community. 26% of US households have somebody that identifies as having a disability, and yet there's no full-time disability reporter at places like CBS News or the New York Times. And so we really felt like we wanted to draw attention to the fact that there's a lot of pressing need in the news business for content, for stories around what's happening in the disability community. And the other thing that we really found and wanted to focus on was the fact that in the other side of communications, the TV and movie industry, that people who portray characters with disabilities in movies and TVs, only about 5% of the characters in movies and TV shows have a disability. And oftentimes they're portrayed by actors who actually do not have the disability. So we wanted to raise awareness of that. We wanted also to draw attention to the fact that we have a fair amount of students who have either a physical disability or a learning disability, but that should not hinder their career aspirations in communications. That we want them to look at communications as a viable career path for them. So that's kind of the concept of ability media and what we've been trying to do the last couple of years.
And how has that been for QU?
I think it's been great. I mean, I think we've raised awareness of not just the School of Communications, but this issue, and I feel like we're also using it or have been able to use it as a recruiting tool when students come to look at Quinnipiac and the School of Communications, and we mention ability media. You know, I see it in the students' faces if they have dyslexia or if they have a physical disability or something else. They're like, oh, that's something that I don't see at other schools that I visit. So I think it's been helpful that way as well.
It's wonderful because I had previously I had a guest on, and I'm sure you know him, Tim Sutton.
Yes,
And
in Virginia.
yes, and Tim was telling me how he's been working with individuals who have the unseen disabilities,
Yes.
such as Alzheimer's, for instance.
Yeah.
And what you do with Ability Media, you're dealing with students and individuals who have both a physical disability as well as an unseen disability. Is that correct?
That is correct. We're a lot of the students who work for Ability Media, who, for example, have a learning disability. Frankly, most of these students, I didn't even know that they had a learning disability. You can't see sometimes when a student has a disability or when anybody really has a disability. I have a son who is 30 now, and he had a learning disability that really affected him when he was in high school. But if you met him in person, you really wouldn't have recognized or been cognizant of the fact that he had a disability. So I think it's something that a lot of people are very sensitive about. They don't want society to know that they have a disability. It's they feel like it's a stigma, and we're trying to change that, and we're trying to convey to these students it's okay to have this disability. That should not limit you in what you're able to do.
I agree with you. And going back to what you said, as far as in the movies, we've seen so many war movies, for instance, and I'll use Gary Sinise, the actor, as an example. He portrayed somebody who came back, a veteran, who came back from war, and he was in a wheelchair and he was handicapped. And of course, through prosthetics and through lighting and special effects, they show that he's handicapped and he was missing limbs. And I really believe that in this day and age, we're now in 2022, there are so many actors and actresses who have physical disabilities that are very talented, and they should be showcased in films as opposed to using able-bodied, fully limbed actors and actresses.
I totally agree with you. There are talent agencies out there now who specifically specialize just in representing actors who have either a physical or or some other disability. So the fact that there are a number of talent agencies out there who represent actors like this shows me that you really should be hiring these people um, to act in movies and TV shows.
Right. It's the same thing even in, if you look at the beauty industry with models, there's so many beautiful men and women models as well. And they should be showcasing individuals who have different abilities. One of the other words that I'm uncomfortable with, when you use the word disability, right away before you actually even meet the individual, there's a negative connotation that comes to mind because of the word dis. It's negative. And it should just be different abilities to change the wording. Everyone's so politically correct nowadays. The one word that should be changed is the word disability.
Yeah, in fact, I had very serious discussions about the usage of the word disability in ability media content with a number of the students. We have some students who are not bothered by the word disability, but we have other students who think it's offensive. And so, what we ended up determining or deciding was the fact that the term disability is actually a federal designation. So we're going to use it, but we're also going to ask the people that we're interviewing and that we're talking about in our stories what they prefer and how would they prefer to be described. And when they want to be described as something besides somebody having a disability, we're going to use that. It should be up to that person to be able to determine how they're represented.
No, I agree with you because, like I said, right away, it comes off, whether it's on a job application or an application for school, it comes off with a negative connotation. And before you even meet the person, you're making, unfortunately, people make that predetermination that the person is not going to be suitable for the position or as an applicant for school.
We had a student who graduated last year who worked on ability media for 2 years, and she was dyslexic. But if she had never disclosed that to you, you would have never known that she was dyslexic. And she actually was one of our outstanding graduates in one of our majors this past year. She was the outstanding media studies graduate. And the fact that she, was an outstanding graduate showed me that she was not letting, her disability affect her whatsoever. And the fact that these people are just like me and you, they can do the work.
Yes, they have the same capabilities as everybody else. It may take them a little bit longer, for instance, but they still have the same output.
Exactly.
So tell me, so how is it that Quinnipiac University, or QU, is the only school in this country right now with this program?
That's a really good question. I will say to you, we've gotten some interest from some other universities about what we're doing. And so we are actually talking to some other universities who are interested in kind of having an ability media chapter, so to speak. And I'm actually going to be visiting one of those universities in a couple of weeks and talking about ability media at a conference that they're holding. So I'm hoping this is something that can grow and spread across the country. I just think this is such a natural for universities. I look at universities and kind of institutes of higher education as this is the place where we should look to try and solve society's problems. And to me, the lack of representation in news stories and in entertainment among the disability community is a problem that institutes of higher education like schools of communication can help solve.
This is actually a program which I hope it becomes very successful because it should actually go worldwide.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. And, just the fact that, the media world is not addressing this, to me, it just shows that they're not paying any attention to what's going on in society.
Well, the only time that I actually recall seeing a reporter in the news and in the communications was that gentleman, the reporter who was interviewing President Trump at the time.
Yeah.
And
And
unfortunately,
President Trump mocked him.
he mocked him, and it was just so hideous for so many reasons. Because here you have an individual, a male reporter. I'm sorry, I don't remember his name. He was doing his job and speaking and questioning the president, and that gentleman's whole persona was just drowned out by the obnoxiousness of President Trump at the time.
Yeah. You know, I will tell you there's a reporter in Washington by the name of Eric Garcia, who was actually a student of mine at the University of North Carolina when I was teaching there. He came up to me the first day of class one semester and said, "I just want you to know that I'm autistic. And if you ever need to tell me to shut up, just tell me to shut up. It's not going to bother me. I understand, what my condition is." And I never that semester had to tell him to stop talking. We need to get away from people who are autistic, like Eric Garcia, having to say things like that, having to apologize for who they are as a person.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's very sad because, if you look at everybody who's portrayed as news reporters on every channel, everybody seems so picture perfect.
Yeah.
And that's not a depiction of who we are as a society. You have so-called, and I'm not saying this in a negative way, imperfect people that don't fit the cookie cutter image of, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to move myself around here, the cookie cutter image of what a newscast is supposed to be. And that person's supposed to just be reporting the news. And it's not supposed to be somebody who looks like they just stepped off of a runway.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I don't understand why, particularly the TV news industry, does not hire, promote, use people with disabilities on their shows. I think it would make their new shows, their content more relatable and more identifiable,
And more realistic.
and frankly more realistic to a large portion of the population.
Right now, the so-called woke community, everyone's concerned now about identifying themselves with the pronouns of how they want to be identified. They're changing images and redoing Disney cartoons and changing Ariel from a little white mermaid into a little black female mermaid to be more identifiable to other people. But what about the people who are in wheelchairs? What about the people who are missing limbs? What about the people who have disabilities? They're not reflected in anything. And I think it's about time. It's 2022. We're going to 2023. And across the board, in communications, in the movies, like you said, in the media and reporting, everybody should be reflected. Show everybody, because this is how we are. We're a fabric of people with different abilities and different capabilities.
I think we're starting to see a little bit of movement. For example, like the animated kid show Thomas and Friends, the Tank Engine. They just recently added a new character who is autistic, and there is now a new Barbie doll of a Barbie that has a disability. So I think we're starting to see some change. It's just very small. And you mentioned, advertising. We're starting to see companies use people with disabilities in their advertising campaigns as well. So I think that there are some companies out there who understand that they need to do a better job in accurately representing society, but we've got a lot more work to do.
It's very slow in the making when you think about all these companies with the products that they've been promoting their products through print media and TV media for so many years. There's a whole segment of the population that has been ignored and shut out, but yet they're still consumers.
Yeah. We had some students last month go to a fashion show in New York called Runway of Dreams. And Runway of Dreams is all about um, clothing companies who actually have clothing lines for people with disabilities. And it was just so refreshing and so heartening to see that there are some companies out there who realize that there's a huge population out there that they need to start targeting.
But it's not so much even people with disabilities, because someone could have a car accident, for instance, or a stroke, and they were 100% able-bodied without any problems, and then suddenly, because of a change of occurrence, and due to health or due to an unforeseen accident, they now suddenly have a disability.
Yeah.
So it really needs to be reflected all around. But I'm very happy with what it is that you're doing, and I would like to hear so much more about it. Now, once one of your students graduates from this program, do you have placement for them?
We have two career services directors here in the School of Communications who works with the students. And that student that I mentioned earlier, who was the top graduate in our media studies program, she quickly was hired and actually was hired to work in public relations for a university here in the Northeast.
That's excellent. And
Yeah.
how large is your program at QU?
School of Communications has about 750 students. University as a whole has about 9,500 students. And what we're seeing is that the broader university is now starting to recognize what Ability Media is doing and how Ability Media can help some other programs. I was on a meeting just this morning with a professor in our occupational therapy department who wants to start a podcast with Ability Media where she interviews and talks about people with disabilities and what they do for jobs.
Now, Ability Media, was this started by you yourself at QU, or when you came in, it was already an established program?
It was something that I started about a year after I got here.
And what made you create the program?
We've basically been making it from scratch. We hired a gentleman by the name of Dave Stevens, who is local here to help us out. Dave has a long time career in communications. He spent 20 years at ESPN, worked at a number of other places. Dave was born without hips and legs. So he knows both the media world and what it's like to be a disabled person in communications. Dave won 7 Emmys at his work at ESPN. So we felt like he was a natural to help us out here.
That's excellent. So I see that he joined something called Disability Dream and Do Foundation in 2016. Can you explain that if you know about it?
Basically, what Dave does is Dave goes around the country and talks to disability groups, particularly disability groups aimed at younger kids, and just tries to motivate them, and just tries to show them that despite his disability, he's been very successful, and they can be successful as well.
This question, I hope, does not come like a left hook to you. But in New York, for instance, I'm not sure how it is in Connecticut, but in New York, so many public school programs had been cut over the years due to state funding and government funding. And I'm not sure if in Connecticut, are programs provided for kids in high schools, for communications to get them interested?
I don't know specifically, but what I do know, and I don't think this is unique to Connecticut, I think this is a countrywide issue, is that there is a shortage of special education teachers in Connecticut. Ability Media has actually written about this and what the issue is here in Connecticut. So what my understanding is, that's the biggest issue here. Um, we do have some high school programs where we will bring in high school students with various types of disabilities and show them the School of Communications and talk to them about Ability Media and what Ability Media does. And that's really opened the eyes, I think, of some high school kids.
Right, because I would think that, kids with special needs in high schools around the country and specifically in Connecticut, if they know about your program, it would make them more interested in attending because they would feel that there's something good for them and their interests.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping, that once we can, continue to raise awareness of Ability Media, we're going to start getting students who can come to Quinnipiac solely because of Ability Media and solely because of what we're doing to raise awareness of the fact that communications needs to do a better job of providing content to this community.
Well, I see. It's coming up on the screen that I hope everybody sees that you mentioned Dave Stevens, and apparently he was on a program with our mutual friend Tim Sutton.
Yeah.
And so Tim has worked with individuals, like we were stating before, who have other unseen disabilities, as opposed to just people who you can actually tell when you see them have a physical disability.
Yeah. Dave is a bundle of energy. Dave is so enthused and so motivated, and he's just a great spokesperson for Ability Media and for what we're trying to accomplish. Just his energy and his positivity is just infectious, and I think it rubs off on the students.
So currently, right now, how many students do you have in your communications class?
We currently have about 15 students in Ability Media. They're doing a variety of things. So we have a couple of students, for example, who do all of our social media. We have a student who runs the website. We have 4 or 5 reporters who are writing stories, both local Connecticut stories and national stories. We have students doing podcasts. We have students editing video content and doing video shows. So, what the way that we created Ability Media is we wanted to include the fact that students from all of our majors in the School of Communications can be involved, and I think we've accomplished that.
Have any of the major news outlets or reporting outlets reached out to you to work with you, to have interns from Ability Media work with them?
We have not, but we have had some news organizations pick up our content and run our content. So we are starting to get awareness that way.
Well, honestly, I would like to see some of these major news outlets and TV stations around the country or in the tri-state area reach out to you to have your students working with them and to be learning, like, right there on the spot internships, and to see what it's like to be, reporters and working behind the scenes and with the camera crews.
I think that's a great idea. I would love to have that happen.
I think you and I should work on that together. Just keep push them, because the what is it? The squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yeah.
So we have to push. We have to push them. We have to let them know that Ability Media is out there, that you're the force behind it, along with your students.
Yeah.
So how has it been over there between Ability Media and your students? Do they like the program?
I think they like the program. It's another way here on Quinnipiac for students to get involved and for students to get experience. Obviously we have a student newspaper and a student TV station, and a student radio station. but I see Ability Media kind of also being an offering for students to get experience, but to really specialize in a specific topic, and that is disability news. I think everybody is seeing, particularly on the news side, that news is becoming more specialized. And there are so many more specialized news publications out there. And so the future of news is going to be, do you have a specialty? Do you know how to cover a specific topic? And Ability Media gives students an opportunity to specialize in a topic.
That really is excellent, because right now you have Ability Media, which is part of the School of Communications at QU.
Yep.
And that's a specialized area of the School of Communications.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a student organization. We meet every Monday and talk about stories, talk about deadlines, and when people are going to get stories in, talk about what's coming up, events we need to cover. So we're kind of operating it like a newsroom, but we're including the other people as well, like the social media people, so they know when stories are posted, so they can promote them on social media. We're involving the video people in terms of do they need to shoot video for a specific story, things like that.
Now, are they also involved in creating videos and like film and movies?
We have a student, Justin Janison, who has done a film short about him growing up. It's a fictional film, but it's based on him and his sister growing up with disabilities, and that was very well received last year.
Well, that's very similar to a story that I had covered previously about I think he's the younger brother of this girl who has different disabilities, and that she was making bracelets just for her own self to work with her motor skills. And then he took over and actually was helping her, and those bracelets are now sent around the country and around the world.
That sounds pretty cool.
So
That sounds like a story maybe Ability Media needs to cover.
I think I'm going to send you that information when we get off.
All right.
Oh, it's called Emily Bracelets, and that's what it is. Thank you, Anthony, in the back. It was Emily's Bracelets, and that was something that we found through Tim Sutton.
Okay.
And that was very interesting, and I think that would be a great story for QU and Ability Media to cover, and maybe one of your students could actually put together a film about her. And I know from meeting her brother, they were really, really lovely people, and the whole family's behind it. It became a family business. So we have to get you and Ability Media on that.
Yes, most definitely.
Where do you see Ability Media going? Like, what's the projection that you have for it?
We are, as we speak, applying for grants. There are some foundations out there that fund disability-related projects, and what I'd really like to be able to do is to really continue to grow it. But to grow it, we need to start generating some revenue and getting some money in. But with a grant from a foundation, we could probably hire somebody full time to run this. I'm kind of running this in addition to running the School of Communications because I'm passionate about the topic. But I feel like if we could hire somebody to run this full time, who could really focus on it, we could take a giant step forward. We could start producing content and sending it around the country. Right now we're just sending it to in here in Connecticut.
Right. So right now it's local, and you have to take this nationwide.
I would love to.
Have you contacted? I know I'm not sure if this is a good question to ask you, but for instance, the people on the television show Shark Tank, they have such a widespread connections. So I'm just wondering if people such as those on that show, if they would be able to assist. Not that you're going on there as far as like with a product, but as far as reaching out to individuals like that. And also too, there's so many sports figures that I would think that would want to be interested in wanting to assist ability media, because a lot of sports figures, once they retire, a lot of times they have maybe a brain injury from playing football, or from the head trauma or other disabilities, or just wanting to reach out. I know there's so many sports figures that are always looking out to help individuals with disabilities.
We have not reached out to anybody on Shark Tank or anybody related with Shark Tank, but we do have a well-known sports agent, Lee Steinberg, who is on our board of advisors, and he has been helpful in starting to introduce us to some people in the sports community who we hope in the long term might help us out.
Well, I'm going to speak with you afterwards, after the show, about individuals that I know that I'd like to speak with you and them about and make the introduction, because I believe that with all their contacts, they'd be very interested.
That
And
sounds
one
great.
of them, one of them is a former middleweight champion, boxing champion.
That sounds great. Thank you.
You're very, very welcome, because something, everybody needs a little help, and with what it is that you're doing for individuals and students is just so wonderful that it's got to be brought out of where you are in Quinnipiac University and brought out nationwide.
Yeah, I'd really love to start getting some national attention, and I think if we get some of these foundation grants, that's going to open a lot of doors, because once you get one, people are like, oh, that's kind of cool. I want to get involved in that.
But it's also for students, and everyone talks about the future. This is the future. You're talking about students who are going to school and they have incredible bright ideas.
Yeah, I mean, some of the ideas that the current students are working on, I'm starting to see that. Like at the beginning, when people join Ability Media, it's really me giving them story ideas. And now that they understand what's news in the disability community, I've noticed in the last week or so, some of our reporters are like, "Hey, I'd like to write about this," or "Hey, I think this is an interesting topic," and it's not something that I had thought about. So I'm really seeing kind of some students' eyes open to the fact that this is important stuff that needs to be covered.
Can you give us an example of some of the ideas that your students are coming up with that you would not have thought of?
Sure. I got a hold on. I can. I'm going to look in my email for this student.
Mhm. There's so many things that we do every single day as a matter of life because we don't have a disability, and you just take everything for granted. And when you start, putting yourself in the shoes of somebody else, you don't realize that our normal daily tasks that we just find so easy to do,
Yeah.
other people,
So
it's such a hurdle.
yeah. So I got an email on Tuesday from one of the Ability Media reporters. He's working on one story, but he was like, "I'd really like to write a story about something called the Anchor Program Fund, which runs a summer camp for individuals with disabilities." And I had never heard of this camp before. And he says they have it's a camp that runs throughout the year, and they have a fall program starting October 13th. And so he wants to write about that for next week when their fall program opens up. And I was like, that sounds great.
And it's called the Anchor Program Fund?
The Anchor Program Fund. It's www.campanchor.org.
And where is that from?
Hold on, I'm going to click on the link. I think it's actually in New York. Hampstead, so Long Island.
Oh, Hempstead.
Yeah, and it looks like it's run by the town of Hempstead, their Parks and Rec department.
That's excellent.
Yeah,
That's only half an hour for me.
yeah.
You know what's, oh, let me ask you something just to jump over to a question. I don't want to lose it. I know you have your ability media program. Do you have any type of an internship for students, who are not registered with QU, for instance, if they're in high school? And like there's the summer after, well, the summer before graduation. So it would be the summer before going into your senior year of high school. Does QU and your ability media program offer any type of like a summer internship for high school students so that before they start applying to colleges, they could get an idea of what QU offers for them, especially with your program?
So we offer a variety of summer camps
Mhm.
for high school students, and one of them is a specific ability media camp um, where students come. They don't have to have a disability, but a fair amount of the students who do the ability media summer camp have had a disability, and it's a 2-week camp. And at the end of the 2 weeks, they will produce a live 30-minute TV show. And we invite their parents to come on the last day when we do the taping of the live show. And to me, it's transformative for a lot of these students. I think a lot of them probably, have questioned whether they can do this, and the fact that they've just put together a 30-minute TV show gives them just a ton of confidence.
That's excellent. The more I hear about all your programs, the more I am just so excited and so happy to meet with you,
Thank you.
because you're giving these kids who probably thought that they have nothing much to look forward to as far as their abilities, and you're opening up a whole new world for them.
I mean, I've seen parents cry on that last day because they're so proud of their kids.
It's nice. You're bringing everybody out into the open instead of everybody, always feeling, well, I can't do that. The I can't. And you're showing everybody that they can and they will and they do.
Exactly.
That's excellent. What other, well, you were telling me about one student sent you an email about the Anchor program fund. What is something else that was passed by you in an email?
A student who found out that Disability Rights Connecticut, which is a nonprofit organization here in Connecticut that provides support for people with disabilities, has teamed up with the University of Connecticut Law School to start a legal service for people with disabilities. And we've written about that and posted that on our website. That's the kind of local article that we really is kind of our bread and butter. We had 2 other students who found a robotics company here in Connecticut that actually creates robots and software that helps special ed students learn more effectively. And that company is like 30 minutes away from Quinnipiac, and we had no idea that it existed.
Well, I believe MIT in the Boston area also has an incredible robotics program. And they were creating so many different types of tools and learning tools for students who have disabilities.
That does not surprise me.
My brother attended MIT. That's how I'm so familiar with it.
Okay.
With robotics and for people who lost limbs, they would replace it with like robot type of limbs, and it's just more and more aids for people who have disabilities.
We just discovered that there is a dyslexia center at Yale University. Yale is 15 minutes away from us. It's run by a husband and wife team of researchers. And so we've got 2 students working on that story.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
It gives the students so much exposure to so many different programs and people around the country.
Yeah.
Now, is the program that you have, is it a nonprofit?
It is a nonprofit. So since it's part of Quinnipiac University, we are a nonprofit private university. So so yes, we've gotten donations. So I think there's a donations button on our homepage. But yeah, if people want to give to Ability Media, we are a nonprofit.
Can you please give us, for our listening and viewing audience, what the website would be?
Sure, it's real simple. It's abilitymediagroup.com, all one word.
And if anyone, after watching, actually, I don't think that was spelled right. It's ABILITY.
ABILITY mediagroup.com.
.com. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I think it was flashed, it wasn't spelled correctly. Now, anybody who's watching our program, if they want to get in touch with you to either create a program with you, have you come as a guest, actually speak with any of your students, now how would they get in touch with you?
My email address is Christopher.Roush, ROUSH, at quinnipiac.edu, QUINNIPIAC.edu. And I'm one of those people who checks his email 24/7.
Okay, so it's QUINNIPIAC.edu. Okay, perfect. So for everybody, it's Ability Media, Christopher.Roush at Quinnipiac.edu. And if you have any information and you'd like to get in touch with Dean Roush, please do. He's very interested in, of course, grants for the school and for his students. Well, I want to tell you, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on here today, and I wish you and Ability Media and all your students the best of luck for an incredible future.
Thank you so much, Pamela. I really appreciate the discussion.
I would really like to come down and check out the school as well, and to meet with a lot of your students, because what you're telling me has been so inspiring. And we need to have more people, more students of yours and other individuals who have different abilities. We won't say disabilities, but different abilities to be brought out. And they should be in the media, in the newsrooms, TV reporters. They should be out there and not considered, let's just hide them away and just have other people out there in the news. They should be brought out.
I totally agree with you.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Chris Roush, for joining us today. And everybody, you've been listening to Chris Roush, who is the Dean at Quinnipiac University in Connecticut. And we've been discussing Ability Media. Thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing all of you next week. Have a wonderful week, everybody.